Welcome to the Power of Music podcast, brought to you by JM International. Get ready to explore conversations with those making a difference through music.
Hello and welcome everyone to the JM Jeunesse Musicale podcast, a global network of NGOs that empowers young people through music across all boundaries. We are here at the beautiful Concertgebouw in Brugge for the YAM Session 2022. YAM Session is part of Young Audiences Music, YAM, JMI's program dedicated to providing children and youth with access to high-quality live music experiences. The program aims to foster, through international exchange and collaboration, an increase in both the quality and quantity of concerts for young audiences all around the world. My name is Ricardo, and I'll be your host. And for this episode, I'm joined by Jo Mangan. She's Artistic Director and CEO of the Performance Corporation and former director of Carlow Arts Festival. Her creative projects are in the realms of theater, opera, site-specific and virtual reality work. Recently, she led the creation of a participative VR piece, Out of the Ordinary, for Irish National Opera over 3 years, which won the prestigious Fedora Digital Award. She founded the Space Program, Ireland's longest-running multidisciplinary international artist residency with a current focus on arts and technology. You just gave a fascinating presentation about the potential for VR in music performances. Can you tell us how you ended up in this space?
Well, I think VR has been something that I've been dancing around for a while. So always been a bit of a tech nerd, always been the person fixing other people's computers throughout my life, be it family members or whatever organisation I was working with. And I started going to tech conferences, just got invited to one a few years ago and ended up figuring out that there was a whole world of work happening in the wraparound of the tech festivals. And the tech festivals were, founders, billionaires, blah, blah, whatever. Some interesting things. There was always new technology coming through that I found fascinating. But what was happening was that it was always kind of billed as tech and arts. And there were always these rooms you would go into and there'd be some guy pressing buttons that didn't work. Or there'd be some installation that wasn't manned and kind of was supposed to be some sort of interactive light thing and it didn't work. So I really started to think, we can do better. And when I say we, I mean those of us working in the arts, those of us who are used to hardcore deadlines, those of us who have, genuine deliverables, things that you actually have to put in front of audiences and have that ethos. So started to explore what was possible in that realm. And the easiest way, in a way, for me to get into it was one of the many hats I wear is running my own company, the Performance Corporation, and we had been creating artist residencies, multidisciplinary artist residencies for years. And I decided to switch the focus up and make it an arts and tech residency. So obviously I had my big hardcore charlatan hat on because I didn't know what I was talking about, even though I'd put out the call looking for amazing people to join, to learn about this whole world of immersive. And in the process of doing that, as part of this residency, I got amazing facilitators who did know what they were talking about, who were really at the top of their game and who were, all learning actually, because that's the wonderful thing about this medium is we are all learning. The technologists are learning, the artists are learning, and, it's not like it's some great big amazing future that's going to get rid of live performance. That's never going to happen, but it is an alternative, and it is a way of reaching people that don't get reached, be that young people who have their heads stuck in Xboxes all the time, or be it people who don't think music, classical music in particular, or opera is for them. I think it really opens up possibilities.
Just to give a little bit of a background to my next question, we did some preliminary research with some of the artists that I work with that are quite strong on Twitch. And we tried to bring their audiences to different online platforms, such as the metaverse, and that seemed to work quite well. However, giving away tickets to live performances did not work as well. And of course, I don't have enough data to draw any firm conclusions, but we hypothesized that virtual performances might attract a different, perhaps more introverted audience. Have you observed something similar at all?
Oh, look, in the same way that you don't have all the data on it, I don't have all the data on it. So I can just tell you, my own anecdotal sort of discoveries, which are that what virtual can do is actually, in some ways, appeal to people who aren't really interested in technology, appeal to people who aren't necessarily sitting watching Twitch. Older people, I have found, interestingly, have really embraced it, because it is literally like Alice in Wonderland. You are stepping into a whole new world. You and I might have some experience of gaming, or might have some experience of going into worlds that are not the natural realm, in whatever way we have done that over the years. But a lot of older people haven't. So in a way, the kind of ease of sticking a headset on somebody and creating that response, no matter where their starting point is exciting. And I think we just all have to be really careful when we are making work in that realm, that we don't make people ill, because it's really easy to do, that we actually think about movement, we think about mobility, we think about people's level of comfort moving through the space, and create comfortable experiences. Like, we're not trying to throw people into roller coasters. There's plenty of apps that do that for people. But I think, just to come back around to your original question, I think that there are opportunities to it's like we're at the bottom of Mount Everest. We've got all the gear. We know there's more gear halfway up the hill mountain. We have to collect that on the way. We're going to have to try and achieve that summit multiple times. We will fail multiple times, and we will learn so much and become stronger en route. And that's kind of how I'm approaching it. It's like the beginning of film, actually. I often kind of equate it to that. It's like hanging out with the Lumiere brothers or Muybridge. We're having real conversations with people who are discovering alongside us. And so, be they musicians, or be they technologists, or visual artists, or whatever it is, we're all figuring it out together. And that's super exciting.
Because we talked a bit about your journey into tech. How about your journey into music?
Well, mixtapes. Do you remember? No, you're far too young. So my grandfather bought me a cassette recorder when I was quite young, and I used to hover around the music channel, waiting for my favorite track to come on, try and accurately get the in and the out before the DJ whittered on. That moved into, I guess, love letters via cassettes, via music. I mean, there's nothing better than a good playlist. And moved on to me DJing in my 20s. I lived in the States for a while, DJed over there. But theatre was my kind of métier, I guess. And I don't think I've ever made theatre without considering music, often working with composers. The last couple of pieces I've made have been fully sung, actually. I don't know if they're opera. I don't know what they are, but there's music throughout. Music and sound design, actually. And unless silence is a decision, there will always be sound design in the work that I make.
One of the things you said during the presentation that really stuck with me was this making us realize that there's like this barrier for some people to go into theater or to visit an opera house. And I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that's also something that you feel is important, that we take away these barriers.
Yeah, of course. So I guess there was a barrier for me, myself, in terms of thinking about going to theatre. It felt like a place that other people went. And throughout my working life, I've heard people say, oh, what do you do? I work in theatre. First of all, they say which one, because they assume it's a building. And once they figure out it's not a building, they go, oh yeah, I should go to the theatre more often. Like it's a penance, like it's kind of some sort of weird religion that you have to get involved in every now and then in order to be able to move on with your life. Mm-hmm. I hate that. I hate that about theatre, because I know how transformative it can be. I know how exciting and jaw-dropping and disturbing and mind-altering it can be. And there's very few things in life that do that. Everything, for the most part, people, particularly nowadays, I think, go down the rabbit hole they want to go down. They hear the voices they want to hear. Polemic is non-existent. It's interesting to hear. I had a conversation with someone here last night who was talking about people going to theatre for the first time and saying, but it was, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, let's say it was misogynistic against women. It's like, well, that was in order for you to have a conversation about it being misogynistic, So it's interesting that even we're so cosseted, I think, in terms of the worlds in which we inhabit, the opinions that we are surrounded by, that not having those contrarian opinions interject, be it through theatre or film or whatever art form, and it's art really, it's music, it's opera, it's whatever. These are where I get my ideas from. I get my inspiration clattering around a gallery or listening to the radio and listening to a particularly good series of music. So I think having the opportunity to give those tools to other people so that they can change their bloody minds about things is so important, because we just live in an echo chamber these days, and art can interfere with that echo chamber and can cause your brain waves to change and can cause your ideas to change. So whether the barrier is financial, whether the barrier is psychological, whether the barrier is geographical, disability, I think it's incumbent upon all of us who work in this world to try and break those barriers down. And I guess the disability thing, I think, is an interesting one. The digital access that was suddenly opened up to people who were always stuck in their homes, that happened during the COVID pandemic, like as if it's over, it was remarkable, because people were able to engage with art forms that they never were able to engage with before that. Now, I'm not talking about the camera stuck at the back of the room recording a piece of theatre or recording opera, or even music. I'm talking about people, digital artists, who really took on board the fact that there was an audience out there that were hungry and that were not being fed. When I was running Carlow Arts Festival at the time, one of the things we did was we created a virtual festival campus in Altspace, I think it was in Altspace. And, we were able to create an art gallery, we were able to create installations, have performances, have talks, etc. Of course, it was only accessible to those with headsets or those with computers that were logging on. And my God, is it difficult to do that with all the follow me and know this password, etc. But I know it's all going to get easier, and I think we just have to be realistic and with joy jump into the fact that the digital world will be moving alongside the analog world in the creation of art, and it will break down barriers.
We just have to climb that mountain together.
Yeah.
I loved how you expressed in the talk that you kind of have this philosophy of sell them what they want, give them what they need. Maybe you can say a bit about how you use that as well to kind of break these barriers. Yeah,
I think it comes from a programming perspective and also from a making perspective. So when I'm programming or curating a festival or event, I will always be conscious of the fact that the majority of people that I'm interested in seeing the work are not interested in seeing the work, because they don't have the frame of reference for it. They think theatre is not for them, or opera, or classical music, or whatever, or new art forms that have yet to be named and that you and I haven't considered yet. So how do we ensure that those people have the opportunity to have as much joy as we do in the work that we see? And something that I did mention in the talk was site-specific or site-responsive work that happens outside of the theatre realm, notwithstanding that this is an extraordinary venue here in Bruges. It's an imposing venue. It's, I think my 18-year-old self would be pretty intimidated about, in fact, where do you go when you come into this building? It's got so many levels. There's desks here and there, people working here and there. A lot of people I've spoken to over the years have expressed to me the fact that, if they go into one of these art centres, they don't necessarily know to go to the ticket desk or the box office. There's usually some slightly grumpy person sitting behind a desk saying, why are you asking me that? Go over there. So, we don't make it easy for people. And I think these austere institutions that can be perceived as gatekeepers as well. And I think those of us that have the opportunity to create work outside of them, be that in the public domain, be it in a festival context, be it in the virtual realm or whatever it is, I think we have an onus to do so. And so in festival programming, for example, I will always try and make as much as possible free, or I will do a kind of blanket ticket price for, started a festival in Ireland called the Big House Festival in 2014, I think. And we had a kind of blanket low price point. I think it was like 20 or 25 euro. Children were free under 15 or 16. And with that, you got access to about 50 different events. And within that, there was popular music, there was art installations, there was opera in the open, there was just circus, there was all sorts of things, visual art installations, etc. So you might have been coming for the popular music artist whose name you knew and you wanted to see their gig, but on the way to that, you got something entirely different. You got something completely exciting and unusual that you didn't know you wanted. And so that's how we create appetite. It's kind of like kids, I guess. They're always going to just eat white, bland food unless you sneak in a bit of spinach somewhere and they don't notice it and they go, oh, it's not so bad, actually.
Actually, my journey with JMI has been this for me. I'd never been to an opera. I've been to some classical music, but not a lot. Just by kind of engaging with JMI and falling in love with this kind of vision of empowering young people through music, I've actually encountered so many different art forms that I probably wouldn't have encountered them, which I'm very grateful for as well.
And that's amazing that, I don't know, I mean, what are you now, 75, that has taken this long to get to that place in your life, you know? But congratulations, finally you got there.
Thank you. But it's nice that these opportunities exist. And I'm not sure, do you feel that enough people think about it in the way you do?
I think a lot of, I mean, I know a lot of arts administrators, arts producers, working in the field for far too long, really. A lot of the time, colleagues would express opinions that if you don't charge for things, people don't value it. I don't believe that. I really don't believe it. It's like, but it has kind of become a trope. It's become a belief system. It's like, if you don't put some charge on it, they won't turn up or they won't appreciate it. Or da, da, da. I think it's incorrect. And I think the notion that you build a beautiful building and put on, you know, the most incredible concerts in it means that people should travel from 40 or 50 miles away to come to it. They're not going to. Why would they? You know, you need to really, really think about what it is you want. And I think what you want with art is you want to connect with people. You want to have an impact on their lives, have an impact on their thoughts. Why would you as a creator, as a maker, as an artist do anything unless you had, a motivation to create an impact with it? Yes, it's fine to do stuff for simple entertainment. I have been guilty of it in the past on numerous occasions, and that's fine. But often you can have entertainment with something deeper under it. And you have, if you're an artist with something to say, you need people to hear it. And they're not going to hear it necessarily if it's hidden away somewhere. I mean, we have certainly an issue in Ireland with the fact that we have a lot of venues. For a very small country, we have a lot of funded venues. We have 52 funded venues, far fewer funded organisations that actually make work. So a lot of the venues are constantly grappling to get work in, and as a result of there being so many of them, the audiences diminish. So you could go to the most amazing contemporary dance work and find 15, 20 people in the audience, and they're the 15 or 20 people who were in the last dance piece that came to that venue, and they're probably involved in the dance, and that is just not good enough. And we cannot make work for our own echo chamber. We cannot be making artwork for our friends. Let's hope they turn up, but it's got to be for more than them.
Yeah, I agree. Let's make the jump to opera and VR. They sound like opposites of a certain spectrum. And how did you marry these two?
I was asked. So I had been doing, variously, I suppose, I had been doing work in VR. So as I mentioned, making a virtual reality festival campus, curating the Prague Quadrennial exhibition for Ireland using VR. And I made, for my own company, a live virtual reality performance piece. So I kind of, with those few things and running the artist residency, focusing on immersive tech, So I think I became probably the most experienced person in Ireland working in the arts in VR in a really short time, because, you know, it's all just happened so quickly. So Irish National Opera were planning to do they had been involved in this bid called Traction under Horizons, which is a very well-funded sort of as far as I can make out, there's a lot of information, but as far as I can make out, it's more of an academic kind of superstructure. So we're kind of the study of the academics. We're kind of like we've created this little project for the academics to study and get to grips with. And the same has happened in Spain and Portugal. So in a way, we're very small. This piece that we've made out of the ordinary is a very small cog in a very big wheel. But I'm happy to say the wheel itself seems to be growing maybe bigger than some of the other cogs. And we were fortunate enough to be awarded the Fedora Digital Prize, and we've also just been nominated for the International Opera Prize under digital. So fingers crossed for that one. But it's it's just something that's really captured people's imagination, the idea of opera and virtual reality. And why opera and virtual reality together is because Irish National Opera are really good at thinking about new audiences. And Fergus Shield, who's the artistic director there, came from a place of making opera in the public domain. He was really, very visible in creation of opera. I remember seeing an opera piece that they did down an alleyway beside the bins. I chanced upon it, and it was amazing. It was fantastic, and it was like, lots of other people chanced upon it down the alleyway beside the bins. Not really where you expect to, come across your opera. But I think that kind of ethos has permeated the organisation, and so, as well as absolutely doing kind of main stage classics and, ticking that box, they're very much focused as well on trying to create opportunities for other people who aren't classic opera goers to go to opera, to get to grips with it. And they're also really good at commissioning new work. So the actual composer for this is an amazing woman called Finola Merivale, who lives in between New York and Cork. They rhyme. I don't think that's why she does it, but it's helpful. And so she's actually doing a PhD in Columbia at the moment. But her piece and her way of working is very open. So a lot of the musicians actually on that final opera, on Out of the Ordinary, were community members. We had a harpist, we had an accordionist, and we had just a lot of kind of percussion, which is obviously easier to do with not necessarily musical groups, but then choirs from Inishmean, which is the Irish-speaking island that we worked with, and from Tala, from Dublin, from the urban community that we worked with. So I think why opera and VR together is because they're bloody difficult to put together. They're both bloody difficult individually, so why not? I personally love a challenge. I'm not interested in things that don't have me in the stretch zone. Otherwise, might as well watch Netflix.
Do you think it succeeded?
Never.
Almost?
So I don't think anything I do ever succeeds. And I think that's probably what keeps me going from one project to the other. So there's always a level of dissatisfaction with the outcome. But that's not to in any way take away from the work that everybody else has put into it. I think the music is great. I think the visuals are great. I think, the libretto is great. I think I'm always striving for more. And I think probably I have a slight frustration with the technology. The virtual reality headsets that we're working with at the moment are Quest 2s. They're clunky. They're big. They hang off your face. Do I pick one up and put it on for pleasure? No. You know what I mean? So I think we'll get there. I remember trying a Magic Leap a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, no, this is good. But there's nothing in, like, there's no apps for it. There's nothing you can do in a Magic Leap. Same with the HoloLens. The Quest has become the go-to. I'm not sure if it's going to stay there as the headset. Apple are coming out with a new mixed reality. Quest have just launched their own Pro. Maybe when the technology catches up with our wonderful imagination as artists, then maybe there will be a greater level of satisfaction. Satisfaction in the process, absolutely. Satisfaction in the people that I've worked with and what I've learned and how much I've grown and stretched along that way, absolutely. Satisfaction with the final outcome, never.
If people want to find you, your work, or want to see this beautiful mixture of VR and opera in Out of the Ordinary, where can they find you? Can they find the opera somewhere?
Yeah, so the opera itself is it just premiered in Kilkenny Arts Festival in Kilkenny this year, and then transferred to Dublin Fringe Festival. And the plan is for it to tour nationally and internationally. So yes, the piece, it's an APK file, so it could literally be sent to somebody and they could upload it in their headset, assuming they weren't dealing with lots of updates, which I've been dealing with the past few days to try and get a new version of my headset. But we made the decision to actually create an environment for it to be viewed at the moment, which includes a nice luscious carpet, wonderful facilitation, because we're aware most people haven't been in headsets before still. We don't have controllers, so we got rid of that impediment. So it is just your hands that do whatever needs doing, but people do need guidance. So not many people are sitting at home with a headset waiting to upload an APK file via SideQuest. And if you don't know what I said there, that's why. I didn't know what I was talking about, a couple of years ago either. So at the moment, it's going to be a project that will travel and will hopefully turn up in festivals and events around Europe and further afield. In terms of me, the dissatisfied Joe, I am very satisfied. I'm usually on Twitter, and that is Joe Mangan. That's JOMANGAN. I just do face boasting, so forget about me there. It's just I'll probably put up that I was here and say happy birthday to people. I can't abide Instagram, so I'm no good there, and my email is also Joe Mangan, and my personal one just has a me.com at the end. But Twitter is where I live in the virtual realm. And
also, like you said, watching VR is at least half of the fun, right?
Absolutely.
So last but not least, here at JMI, we're all about empowering young people, all people, especially young people, through music. What to you is the power of music?
I want to bust out into a power ballad now with that question. That's and I did put together a mixtape for my recent holiday in Greece, driving across the north of Greece, which mostly was like just pretty cheesy American rock from the 80s. And you can't beat belting that out at the top of your voice when you're climbing up a mountain in a crappy rental car. I think it can elevate any circumstance. I think it can elevate intimate and public circumstances. It can also be an awful thing, like Christmas music pumped out through tannoys incessantly from here on till the end of December, which I expect to have to put up with. So judiciously used, music can be a transformative tool and can really elevate any circumstance. I can't imagine a world where I wouldn't probably, as a first port of call, put on some music when I go into a space. Certainly not on a phone. I mean, you've got to have a good speaker. You've got to have a good, reasonable at least speaker to listen to music on. It brings people together. It creates atmosphere. Even during my talk today, Vlad, who was the in-house techie, put on his kind of like, pre-show cocktail music just to get everyone chilled out. It's amazing. It's a mood maker. It rewires our brain, and you know more than I do.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening. If you want more information about JM or would like to get involved, visit www.jmi.net, where you can find more information and look for national member organizations, or go to www.mubazar.com to get an overview of all the amazing opportunities for musicians. It would mean a lot to us if you could give us 1 minute of your time and review and rate this podcast. And in case you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us through the JMI social.